This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglin.
The motto is be prepared, but preparation in this case was quite measured in its coming. We go inside outdoors with a father and son who recently returned from a 12-day expedition at the Philmont Boy Scout Ranch in New Mexico. You'll hear how Kentucky toughened them for the physical and mental challenges of true high adventure. On my honor, I will do my best to keep you on the edge of your seat. Next on Kentucky Afield Radio.
By the time you're 20, you have a good knowledge of the course you're taking in life. I'm glad I do. This year, Kentucky Nature license plates turn 20 as well. These are plates with the bobcat, cardinal, and the butterfly. Kentucky Nature license plates have helped safeguard more than 80,000 acres of wilderness areas for everyone to appreciate. And I can't wait to see what's down the road. See with me. Next time you renew, choose a nature plate and drive home your support for the great outdoors.
A canoe can take you places barely found on a map. But there's a but coming. Canoes account for nearly twice the boating deaths as personal watercraft. A fact, nearly 2 to 1. Not that you shouldn't canoe, but this might give you twice the reason to wear a life jacket, as if one isn't enough. So if you take your solitude seriously, take this advice. Your life jacket's got your back. A reminder from your Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. Welcome to Kentucky Afield. My name is Charlie Baglin. You know, unless we have kids, scouting doesn't readily enter our lives. Sure, we buy our share of Girl Scout cookies. When's that, like February? But other than that, how often do we really see Boy Scouts helping an old lady across the street? If someone brings up the term scouting, chances are you think about football or basketball recruiting. They send a scout to the game. They're scouting such and such a player. Another form of scouting, deer scouting. Just where to put that deer stand. Statistics say that only 1 in 4 kids will actually join scouts. After the first year, 30% of those will drop out. So where were you in scouts? Were you in Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Brownies? I personally was in Boy Scouts. Later in life, I had the chance to be an assistant scout master. Maybe you've heard of the singer David Bowie. His very first public musical performance was at a scout camp back in '58. From the Rolling Stones, you remember Keith Richards? He credits scouts with nurturing his musical career. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, they were in Cub Scouts together. So there are some pretty cool dudes in scouting. Square knots and campfires, they just scratch the surface. Scouting prepares a young mind for life. It teaches follow through. You may be in scouting yourself. If not, you know someone who is, just like I do. Works right across the hall from me in the Kentucky Afield TV studio. For over a year, I've heard Nathan Sangster talk about the fun that he and his son Nathaniel have been having in Boy Scouts, and most of this has been targeted toward preparation for an expedition at the Philmont Scout Ranch, the mecca for Boy Scouts in New Mexico. So Philmont, fill me in.
It is the original high adventure scout ranch or outing place for scouts to go to. Started in 1938. Wyatt Phillips, oil tycoon, decided to donate originally in 1938 67,000 acres to the Boy Scouts of America. By 1941, he donated the rest of his property there to them because he felt that the land was too big and too much responsibility for one person to own, and he wanted everyone to enjoy it. And so it is really a neat opportunity. He donated 137,000 acres total, and nowadays with loaning of land and access to other land, Boy Scouts from across the globe. We actually had a group there from Puerto Rico this summer. Hiked on. They have access to 250,000 acres for high adventure hiking.
New Mexico?
Northeast New Mexico, near Cimarron. When you get to base camp, you're at 6,500 feet, and you go up to 12,414 feet tall at Mount Baldy.
41.
Let me tell you this. My wife and I were in Colorado this year at similar altitudes. And I know that if I was around, well, Denver's 5,280, and I could feel it there. And if you go higher into the Rockies, 6,000, 7,000 feet, I mean, I was gasping. I couldn't walk very much. And granted, I'm not as young and as able as you are, Nathaniel, but I don't know how in the world, because I was reading this, you're going to be having a pack that said weighed anywhere from 35 pounds up to 50 pounds, and you might hike 12 miles a day. What are those parameters?
It depends on where we were going based on the different camps, because, of course, you have the different camps, staff camps and trail camps. They're different. Sometimes we would hike 3 miles, sometimes we would hike 7 miles. And one time when we were at Head of Dean, we had to get to a place before it started raining because we went during monsoon season, so it started raining around 12 o'clock. We decided to head out around 8:30, 8:45, and we hiked about 3 miles per hour. We were trying to book it before the rain came in, and we made it about 10 miles within 3 hours.
That's hoofing it. I'm looking at the two of you, father-son team. Between you, probably not an ounce of fat. And I know for the last year, I'm guessing, because you and I work together, Nathan, and I've heard you mention numerous times we're going camping, we're doing such and such in preparation for Philmont.
Correct. We would we only did a couple of overnight camp-out trips that simulated it, so we had freeze-dried food, and we cooked with the type of stove and pots that we would use there at Philmont. But we would also try to get in a 6 to 8 mile hike minimum in preparation for this, as well as each individual person would work individually on running, jogging, hiking, etc. in preparation for it.
A neighbor of mine is named Mark, and he's a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army Reserves. So I've known him for many, many years, and he has been through every type of training known. Yet he is still training because he and his son, I think probably maybe a freshman this year in high school, next year, is going to be going to Philmont. What kind of rigorous training really do you have to do to be ready so when you get out there you can tolerate the altitude and the steepness and the thin air?
It's really difficult to simulate the altitude, obviously. Around here, we vary from 700 to 900 feet above sea level. Do your best to do cardiovascular as best you can. I was afraid of jogging too much, as I am over the half-century mark in age. I was afraid of blowing out a knee, so I mostly concentrated on building muscle with hiking with extra weight on my backpack, etc.
With my pack, when we got out there, the first day when we loaded it up, of course you have to put the food in there they provide for you, and everybody takes partially some crew gear, like a pot or some tents and stuff. So I had the tent, or half the tent, and a pot, and before we headed out we were allowed to weigh our packs, and my pack weighed in 56 pounds.
56 pounds.
There's a certain percentage that they shoot for. They don't want a boy carrying over that because it could do some damage to him. So we had to redistribute some weight to some of the other boys about that time.
With the crew, you split up the gear to even out the weight between everyone, so that one person isn't carrying too much and one person isn't carrying too little. Because if you end up doing that, then what happens is some of the group, like some members of the crew, are getting tired faster because they have a lot more weight in their pack, and that's slowing them down. And then some other members of the group are going a lot faster because they have less weight in their pack.
When you get to the campsite, are duties also split up? Individuals or teams?
Yes. What we normally do is we usually have 2 people cooking that night, and what the cooks do, they sanitize the dishes and the pots, and then they actually cook the freeze-dried food with boiling water, of course, and then they clean the dishes. But other people in the camp, they're in charge of, like, say if one person's friend is cooking, then they have to set up the tent by themselves.
Okay.
And then we usually delegate 2 people to get water for everyone, because we have water filters and 2.5 gallon jugs to fill up with water when we went to our dry camp out in Hawkeye. And so that was the day where we had to delegate a lot of the water to everyone and split it up so that we wouldn't run out.
Drama afoot, quite literally. Kentucky boy and his dad talk about the scouting adventure they took this summer from Kentucky to New Mexico, a place where Mother Nature isn't always kind. Flash floods, hypothermia, and more. In summer, no less. Details are ahead. Stay with us on Kentucky Afield Radio. We're back on Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglin. The very first time I learned the word thrifty, it was in the Boy Scouts. A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, kind, obedient, thrifty. Thrifty meaning budget conscious, makes wise use of one's cash and other resources. Thrifty. I learned it because of Boy Scouts. My friend from Kentucky Afield Television, Nathan Sangster, and his 14-year-old son, Nathaniel, are talking about a summer high adventure to Philmont Scout Ranch they had in the summer of 2015. What did you learn in Kentucky that made the difference out west? Nathaniel, what did you learn in Kentucky that made the difference out west?
Well, when we were one of the campouts, that's the day where I really learned Leave No Trace really came into play, where you couldn't, when you're cleaning your dishes, you can't just throw the excess water out when you're cleaning your dishes. Some of the water, like if you're cleaning your bowl and there's some water in it, you just drink the water. You don't want to throw it away, because out there they have sumps in every campsite where you can dump all that excess water from cooking, where it has all the meal stuff in there, and then you get rid of like the food, leftover food that's in the pot. You get rid of that in the sump, and then you bag it up, and you have to take it out until you reach a staff camp where you can throw it away. So
if it were to rain, and I know it rains out there, what's the difference between rainwater and water out of your drinking cup?
Well, not really much of a difference, but we didn't really use rainwater because there are streams, and some campsites have potable water spigots in them. We had a 10-liter bag filter, and it had a filter on the bottom. It's basically a gravity drip filter, and you fill it up with creek water, and you just it comes with a filter in the tube, and you literally just filter it into your water bottle or whatever you need the water.
You've gotten it figured out.
One of the neat things about Philmont with the high adventure with the boys, this is a crew-driven outing. The adult advisors, basically, we're there on vacation. We're there to make sure that any decisions that the crew make, they have a crew leader who makes the decisions, who pretty much oversees the whole crew. They have a chaplain, and then
a wilderness guia.
You'll have to define what wilderness guia means.
The wilderness guia, basically, when we were out there at Philmont, they want one person in the crew to keep track of like animals they find or plant life they find out there, so they can basically keep a record of like what's going on with the wildlife out there. And with the wilderness guia, like he reports, say the crew, some of the members of the crew, they're walking out and they see like 2 mule deer out there. They would record that, and they would record it. Usually when you get back, you would report your findings to them so they can get an idea of what's going on out there in the wildlife.
So this is wildlife oriented. What you saw where? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
It's not necessarily who put up the tent this day. It's not a day-by-day log of who did what.
You know, one of the neat things is you're building a team. You're going to face a lot of challenges. Unfortunately, I had to come off the track after 4 days because I had a medical challenge. I was holding the group back. But they experienced a day where it rained for 7-8 hours. And it's not like rain around here. You know, when it rains here at this altitude, it's usually in the summertime. It's usually a nice warm rain. You're comfortable. For every 1,000 feet you go up, the temperature can drop 4 degrees. And so when you're at 9,000 feet and it rains, it's going to be like 45 to 50 degrees. And if your body gets wet, hypothermia can set in. And actually one day they had a challenge where 3 boys were experiencing the first stages of hypothermia. They cut it off. They worked together, and the advisors were there who were trained in wilderness advanced first aid.
So the time of year you were there, was this July?
This is late July, early August.
Okay, so normally we think of that as the dog days of summer when it's hot.
At high altitudes, it's cool. A lot cooler. Matter of fact, when they went up to Baldy, I believe it was probably in the low 40s, if not upper 30s.
This is at night.
This is early morning.
In Kentucky, there is a lot of landscape, a lot of trees, a lot of soil, a lot of leaves that hold heat, moderate the heat, provide shade. In New Mexico, as I'm thinking, it's fairly arid.
Actually, this summer was a very odd summer. They have broken a 13 or 18-year drought out there, 18-year drought out there. I talked with an older couple that had been there for 20 to 30 years, and this is the greenest they've seen it in their total experience out there. But it is, even the humidity level is so much lower than here. I think even on the wet days, once it stopped raining and the sun came out, I would say it was probably in the 30 and 40% humidity as compared to our 80 and 90% here in the Ohio River Valley.
So, Nathaniel, you are 14?
Yes.
When I think of Philmont, and maybe I've got this wrong all my life, it is something you aspire to. You can't just sign up and go. You actually have to achieve something like certain merit badges, certain rankings to be able to go to Philmont. Am I wrong or am I right?
You only have to be 14 or older to go. There's nothing required of you to go except for your medical form. And
you have to be physically able and the right age.
Correct. And generally, though, by 14, if they're in a good troop that has been driving them, they'll probably be at least first class, hopefully star or life ranking. I think we had no one less than star ranking going on this. So generally, because Boy Scout starts at age 12, and so by 14 they should be a star or a life ranking.
And so 12 through what age?
12 through 18.
Through 18
is Boy Scouts.
Yeah, there's a new aspect that was started 20 plus years ago called venturing. When you reach 21, that's the oldest age. It is also co-ed. And so they were wanting to draw in some more people. And the venturing crews, they do less of the merit badges, less of the life requirements, but more high adventure activities. And that's what they're trying to draw people into the venturing crew.
Once upon a time, I lived next door to a family. The man in the family, they had 2 sons. Let's say they were 8 and 11, or 10 and 13, somewhere in there. Scouting age. I don't know if it's Boy Scouts or Webelos or Cub Scouts or what, but they were in it, and they liked it. So I have to ask this question. Is Scouts for kids or Scouts for dads? It's a fair question, because most dads I know are probably more into it, more so than their children are.
I would say the activities, it's both, but the purpose of scouting is to prepare young men for life. So everything geared in Scouts is geared towards preparing them to be hopefully future leaders and civic-minded adults when they grow up and mature.
Nathaniel, what rank are you?
I am Life Scout.
And the next above that would be?
Eagle.
Hey. And you're 14. You've got 3-4 more years?
We're trying to gear towards 16 before the fumes get a hold of them, the perfumes and the gas fumes.
Yeah.
That generally, once they turn 16, it's very difficult.
Well, that's true. If it's that close and have so much time to get it done, I think that would be neat. Is that your plan?
Yes, I plan on getting it by 16.
It takes that much time to become an Eagle Scout from the life ranking.
Well, it generally, if you went by the book time-wise, you could get it earlier. But Eagle Scout is not just, once you get above first class and Star and Live Scout, Eagle Scout is a maturity thing. It's not just a checklist. It is showing responsibility. It is showing leadership skills in organizing their Eagle project. And it's something not to be rushed in. Some boys, actually, I've known that have gotten their Eagle Scout at age 14, but the maturity level was just not there. It didn't sink in. It's something that is earned and earned through time.
Do you have a project in mind?
I haven't really had much thought into it, but I did plan on doing something here at Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, and I was planning on doing something along the trails, like a conservation project with the trails.
You got an idea. At least you have an idea in mind. Then you could branch off from there. Well, that's great. I hope that you can do this in the next couple of years. That'd be wonderful. I know of only one Eagle Scout, and I work with him. His name Brian Clark, and has been on the show. Do you know Eagle Scouts yourself who are helping you along the way?
Yes, in fact, one of them came with us to Philmont, Daniel Halstern. He got Eagle Scout, and I've seen him in the troop whenever I joined. He was an Eagle Scout by then. He told me, don't wait till you're 17, almost 18. You want it done before then, because it'll come up on you really fast. It'll be like a blind hit. You won't know what hit you until it passes you by.
Eagle Scout, that looks really good on a resume. We need to get to a break. A Kentucky Boy Scout is talking about his high adventure at the Philmont Scout Ranch. We have a fishing report just ahead. You two sit tight. I'm reliving my childhood through you. Nathaniel and Nathan Sangster, my guest. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Back on Kentucky Afield Radio, and listen, if you would like to hear this show again, or you want to share the program on Facebook or email the link to somebody who's thinking about getting in scouting or thinking about going to Philmont, easy to do. We're available in 3, maybe 4 different places. First, you can find us on Facebook. Go to Facebook, put Kentucky Afield Radio in the search box. Also, you can find us on myhuntingandfishing.com. We're an iTunes podcast, as well as YouTube. I know it's a radio show, but you see this beautiful image of a slide that says Kentucky Afield Radio. Put it in the search box, and you will find shows we've been producing there for many, many years. More with our scouts just ahead. First up, our fishing report.
This is Jeff Crosby with the Central District Fishing Report. At Taylorsville, channel cats and blue cats continue to be caught using cut bait, especially shad, in 8 to 15 feet of water in areas near old creek or river channels. During this time of year, don't forget about your local streams and rivers in your area. This is an excellent time of year to keep canoe streams such as Elkhorn Creek, South Fork Licking for good catches of smallmouth bass and rock bass. Fish small crankbaits, small jigs to catch these fish. Please always remember to ask for permission when entering private property. And finally, many of the Finn's Program lakes have been stocked, and this is a great time of year to get out and catch a few channel catfish. So grab a pole and enjoy some great summer fishing. Hope to see you on the water.
Hi, this is Kevin Fry with your Eastern Area Fisheries Report. Most area lakes have gone through or going through turnover in upper and mid-lake areas. With this going on, lower lake areas have been producing more consistent fishing success. Bluegill and sunfish reports fairly good, with night crawler and waxworms working in shallow water. Small poppers and flies working on surface also. Panbowl and Yatesville lakes having good numbers of sunfish caught. Lower end of Dewey Lake from Terry's Ramp to the dam having good catches of white and black crappie with tube jigs around 8 foot on brush. Largemouth bass activity still best at dawn and dusk. Various topwater lures and jerk baits are the predominant lure types. Stream fishing reports have been both good and poor. The downstream areas are better right now, and with some upcoming rain, maybe the smaller streams will improve too.
Hi, this is Eric Cummins with your Southwest Kentucky Fishing Report. Best fishing opportunities in the district are on river and creeks. Cumberland River trout fishing has been good with small crankbaits and spinners. For larger fish, trout and stripers, ramp up your tackle and gear to larger crankbaits, at least a half ounce or better, or spoons and swim baits, using some heavier line, 40-pound plus, so you can pull these rigs off the rocks and snags that you'll be in. Action on the big lakes has been slow except for bluegill, which have been good fishing near structure or brush or deeper on the bluff walls, using miscellaneous live bait like crickets and waxworms. As always, good luck and good fishing. Be sure your life jacket's got your back.
We love the outdoors in Kentucky, but I'm not sure what could prepare you for a flash flood knocking on the door of your tent in the middle of the night. We will find out after the break. HIP stands for Harvest Information Program. To hunt birds like doves or geese, you must complete the HIP survey first to help officials better estimate game bird populations. Go to the My Profile page at the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife website. You just need 5 minutes. fw.ky.gov.
I never knew I had an artistic flair until my best friend put a paintbrush in my hand.
More people are finding hidden interest because someone first took an interest in them.
Most of my groceries come from my garden. My neighbor taught me how.
If you're a sportsman or a sportswoman, who's the hidden hunter in your life? Asking someone to come along just might create lifelong interest.
It'll be a great trip. Got your camo?
Take aim on sharing a tradition.
Got it.
After all, someone did it for you. Google Kentucky Hunting to learn more. We're back into our second half hour on Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglin, and this hour we are catching up with two fellows from Shelby County, Kentucky. One is in the Boy Scouts life rank and on his way to becoming an Eagle Scout in the very near future. His dad, an assistant scoutmaster, and also Kentucky Afield television producer. You've seen his name in the credits, Mr. Nathan Sangster, and his son is Nathaniel. Now, if you're like me, you like old TV commercials, and you'll remember a few of them. One that comes to mind quickly when we're talking about Boy Scouts is one that says, if you're not a part of scouting, you don't know enough about scouting. Does that ring a bell? That may be 20 years or more ago.
Oh, I don't recall that offhand, but that was a neat commercial then.
If you knew more about it, you can't say no. Yeah, it's more than, well, Girl Scouts are out there, and we haven't talked about that. It's more than Girl Scout cookies. I don't know the Boy Scout equivalent to Girl Scout cookies, but it's the good feeling you get from Girl Scout cookies that is there somewhere that makes you feel like you're doing something worthwhile.
Oh, it's a neat program. It's it's not perfect. There's no perfect program out there, but everything is designed to prepare them either to go on to school, continue their education in college, or a trade. Every merit badge that these boys take, at the very end, the question is asked, what type of job opportunities are in this field? Whether it's aviation merit badge, farming merit badge, welding, etc. There are 130-something merit badges out there. It gives them a sample of what a possible career could be in that area. And each rank they earn, tenderfoot, second class first, all the way up to Eagle Scout, each one has a board of review, and each board of review is designed to be like a job interview. Each one gets a little tougher as they progress in rank. So it is preparing them not only to be good citizens, but preparing them hopefully for job interviews and a career that they may choose to last them their whole lifetime.
You heard that, Nathaniel. Now you're ready for a job interview and you're 14.
I'm sure my dad would say I still need to mature, but I have experienced a lot of things with scouting, and I believe I have matured a lot since when I was younger through scouting, and it has made me respect people more based on scouting and stuff with ranks, and seeing people that have done lots of things with scouting. I know that they had to work hard to get to where they are.
I was doing a little bit of research about the Boy Scouts of America before you all came in, and I saw this video, and I'm sure you've seen it. It said, Boy Scouts based on three words. A scout is trustworthy, courteous, kind. But it sounds to me what you're saying is a scout is ready for the real world. Could it be summed up like that?
One of the mottos is being prepared, And as adult leaders, we look at it as preparing these boys for life.
Sounds like you're doing a pretty good job. Now, Nathaniel, you know, dear Dad, sitting here, an Emmy Award-winning television producer about the outdoors. What's your favorite part of this, and do the outdoors enter into it?
I think my favorite part of scouting is getting to know all the people that are in scouting and work with scouting. Being in that community where everyone's working hard to become what they want to be and what they envision themselves to be, it's just, I think, amazing to see everyone in scouting together.
As far as the outdoors are concerned, scouting isn't just about camping and building a campfire and knowing how to put it out. It's not just about tying knots. Mm-hmm. I think the wilderness aspect of it, you know, with the campfire. Mm-hmm.
Well, and we regularly practice leave no trace and conservation efforts. They actually have programs out there at Philmont where you go out and work on conservation programs, building trails, repairing some places where there's been some wash, etc., making available areas for animals to thrive and grow.
Conservation camps in Kentucky emphasize a lot of these types of things. The big thing I remember from when I was a kid, I liked to go camping. And that was what it was all about for me. Had my troop lasted longer than, 2 or 3 years, and if I had stayed with it, then, yeah, I would have seen all the other aspects. But this is Kentucky Afield Radio. Let's talk about the outdoor aspect of Boy Scouts. What is it that you do that the Scouts have made easier or better for you?
Well, I've learned a lot through scouting, conservation-wise. I've taken classes about leave no trace and protecting the environment, like environmental science, and I've really learned a lot through that.
I have in my hand my cell phone, and I wish I would have brought it this morning to show you, but it's about the size of a deck of cards. It's a folding stove, and I don't know if the Boy Scouts still use these. I don't know if that falls into no trace, leave no trace, but it's a little aluminum stove, and you put something in the middle of it. It looks like a big fat Lifesaver, an Alka-Seltzer, and it burns, and that's your stove, and you can fit it in your shirt pocket, and it's the greatest thing. I would take this backpacking, and it would boil water. I could make stew or pasta or whatever I wanted to out on the trail. It made my life complete on the backpacking trail. You ever see such gadgets like that anymore?
Oh, they're still available.
Still have that? Have you ever seen that little folding stove?
Oh, yes. With the little tablets, and actually, if you're careful, you can put it out and still use it, continue to use it.
Right.
Over and over until it totally burns and dissolves away. There's the liquid white gas stoves that we utilized out there due to high altitudes. Those are usually a bit better at high altitudes. They generate more heat. Technology's come a long way, but those little stoves are still a great little, especially for the size and weight opportunities. They're good.
It's expected, Nathaniel, that you can find your way by using a compass. Is that true? You ever had to do that, or you just follow the trail?
Well, we did come to a point on our way to one of the camps where the map was showing us one thing, but when we were on the trail, it was something different. And so we did have to pinpoint basically where we were with location-wise. We had to find a fixed point and then multiple fixed points and find our location based on that with the map and compass. And then we had to figure out which trail to follow based on that location.
There's $1.50 word for that. Is it orienteering?
Yes.
And you were able to do that. Mm-hmm. What was your favorite part of this whole Philmont adventure?
Well, I'm going to have to borrow this from my crew leader, Garrett. I was there with him at the time, but we, at the dry camp Hawkeye, there was this big open meadow area, but it was all swampish. Basically, it still had a lot of rainwater in it, and the grass was really tall, but it was getting to be dark, and you could still see, the moon was starting to really come out, and you could start seeing stars, and that moment, that was the view for me, instead of being on top of Baldy where you can see 30 miles out. That was the view for me, being in that area with that meadow starting to turn night. That was beautiful.
Were you able to take a camera with you?
Yes. Some of us, Garrett and my friend Marvin, they both took cameras with them and extra batteries, of course.
There were some things you weren't allowed to take. And I remember your dad coming to my office and saying, "Oh, we can't take," and what was it? You can't take a hammock.
No, you can't.
Tied around a tree. What were some of the other niceties that you would have wanted to have taken but couldn't?
Well, being around all the other boys and older men, deodorant would have been nice, but unfortunately that's a smellable, and it can attract bears and mountain lions at night. So deodorant was out, and only camp soap was allowed, biodegradable.
What was on your list you would have liked to have had?
I would have liked to have a hammock, like you said, but with their conservation out there with Leave No Trace, they don't want you to use hammocks because it can damage the trees.
Mm-hmm. Girdling type of.
Because unfortunately, you do have to camp in set camps every night, and if people use the same trees every night, every day, every night, the girdling would occur and it would do some damage.
You're saying this every day and every night. And I had a note here. There are thousands leaving every day on this trail.
Correct. Throughout a summertime, over 22,000 boys in a 8 to 9 week period will travel through the mountains and the acreage there at Philmont Scout Camp.
Let me read this part of it. A Philmont trek is physically, mentally, and emotionally demanding. Each person, and that's the number I was trying to find, over the total, and you said 22,000 over the summer, will carry a 35 to 50-pound pack while hiking 5 to 12 miles per day in an isolated mountain wilderness. And the elevation there is 6,500 to 12,500 feet in elevation. That means the air is thin. And weather could be problematic. From 30 degrees to 90 degrees. Mm-hmm. Humidity looks like it's pretty decent at 10 to 30%. But storms were quite the biggie. And when I think of the Southwest, I don't think of thunderstorms. There have been situations where flash flooding could definitely wreak havoc on a camp, couldn't it?
Yes, correct. Actually, they had one earlier in June, and 4 people were swept away in this. Unfortunately, a 14-year-old young man did lose his life, and so they were very cautious the rest of the summer. There were flash flood warnings even while we were out there, and everyone was camping a little bit higher up away from the creeks, and just to be safe.
Yeah, that's taking being prepared to heart. The thrill of high adventure in New Mexico's Philmont Scout Ranch. We're back with our final few and details on how you could get involved with scouting. Stay tuned. This is Kentucky Afield Radio. We're back on Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Charlie Baglin in our final few with Nathan and Nathaniel Sangster. Life Scout. Becoming a Life Scout isn't easy. A lot of merit badges involved in that. Philmont itself, not easy. 10 miles a day, vast changes in elevation, temperature. I guess it's just the type of hike you never, ever would want to do alone.
They don't really encourage going by yourself because it would be a lot of work and you'd have to have even more weight in your pack.
Yeah.
That would just be like hard on you mentally, physically, and emotionally.
You're not going to be able to take everything. They have supply points along the trail, am I right?
Yes. They have commissaries at staff camps, and we went to 3 of those during the entire 2 weeks. We were out there for 12 days. That's where we picked up food and extra, like, white gas if we needed more white gas for our stoves, and that's where we picked up all the food.
You were there for 12 days. How many days were you actually on a trail, and for how many miles?
Actually, they were on the trail for 10 days. Your first day, you come into camp, there's a lot of orienting you to what's going to go on and some training, etc. And then when you come back, you get about a day to rest. So it's 10 days on the trail.
If you could go back and do it again, anything you would do differently or want to do again?
Well, I would really like to go there again, but this time try a different trek. Our trek was a lot of South Country going into the North Country on the last of the trip. And next time, if I do go again, I would like to go more North Country and try to hit all those places up there, like White Man Vega, where my friends went 2 years ago. They hit some of those places up in North Country a lot, and I would really like to go up there and experience that too.
So this is something you can do, a scout can do again and again?
Correct.
Yes.
So it's not limited to once and done.
No.
You can go back and do it. Is this something a scout can say, I want to go, but I can't get X number in my troop to go. Can I tag along with another troop?
You can connect with other troops and crews out there. They have programs where you can do that. Like I said earlier, the Rayado crew, you can go with different strangers and work together with like 9 to 10 people or 9 to 12 people and go through, and you guys get to choose your own itinerary and go through that trail with strangers that you've never met before. And if you don't want to do that, then you can always go with a crew like near you who's going, or a different group.
Is there such a thing as a clarity of thought on impromptu question merit badge? Because your son Nathan could get it today. He's earned it in the past hour. I'm impressed with how much you've enjoyed this and are able to articulate your thoughts about it all. What would you say, either one of you, to scout leaders, to Boy Scouts, to say, hey, Philmont is worth it?
Looking back on it, I know when I was in Scouts back in the 70s, I unfortunately, Nathaniel's gone much farther than me as well. I only made it to Tenderfoot, unfortunately. But I remember, I will never forget a young man who was a friend of my older brother who came back from Philmont, and all he could talk about was the great fun and excitement and adventure he had at Philmont. It is the destination to go. They have 3 other high adventure places now in scouting, but Philmont is still the original. Philmont is a challenge, both physically and mentally. There may come a time on the trail where you are physically exhausted, but it is the mental will to keep going that keeps you going. And it builds teams. It is a great bonding experience for the young men and advisors that go out there, because they are faced with so many different challenges, and for them to come together to overcome those challenges, it is a great experience to do that and come back and say, I did it.
What would you say to a kid your age that hasn't gone, to say, hey, maybe you ought to put this on your calendar, your to-do list?
I would say something like, hey, this is what I've done. You can do it too. If I can do it, you can do it. It's more mental than physical out there. You have to imagine yourself doing it, and you have to believe you can do it in order to do it. You have to think you're going to do it. You have to know you're going to do it. So what I would say is, I've done it, now you go do it. I've had those experiences, and I want you to have those experiences.
You're a step ahead of many of your friends in many ways because of this. I'm impressed that you've come in and been able to share this. I am personally jealous. I, too, am a tenderfoot, or was. Do you feel outranked? Do you feel outnumbered?
Not really.
He could take us both on, Nathan.
I think he can.
I am proud of you for what you have done, and I am envious because you did it and I could not have. But I know friends. I had a friend live down the street who was at least talking about it. But it's one of those things like Disneyland. Yeah, it would be great if I could go one day. But you never get there. And you have gotten there. So that's wonderful. Where can you go to find out more about the Boy Scouts of America?
BSA.org. Kentucky has 2 councils. The Lincoln Heritage Council, which covers Louisville, Central Kentucky, Western Kentucky, a few counties in Illinois, Southern Indiana, and even in Tennessee. And then there's the Bluegrass Council, which covers basically from Frankfort east in the state of Kentucky. May even include a couple of West Virginia counties. But there are 2 main councils. The Bluegrass is located in Lexington, and the Lincoln Heritage Council is located in Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, Nathan, son Nathaniel, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Girl Scouts deserve equal billing, I guess. I met a young lady back in 1993 on an Eagle weekend. This was at Kentucky Lake. She was a senior in high school in Louisville. And this was back when I was more involved with the Kentucky Afield television show, and I featured her on a piece about Eagle Weekend. And she was just about to receive the Girl Scout Gold Award. I take it that's the Eagle Scout equivalent. Her ambition was to become, pretty sure it was an oceanographer, and she did just that. 20 years later, she found me on Facebook. You lose track of people. She chased me down on Facebook, and she had gotten her master's degree in biology, was a sea turtle expert. She was living in the Grand Cayman Islands. I would love to do a piece with her on what she did then and now, how she's turned all this into a great career in the outdoors. Meanwhile, we are out of time. This is Charlie Baglin, inviting you to join us in a week, and we'll go inside outdoors again, right here on Kentucky Afield Radio.